Have you seen the video that claim doctor understand nothing? I think by Freeman. I think the year was 2018. I was in St. Joseph Hospital, and then later one of the hospice near there. And I have to conclude that the doctor don't know what they're doing, don't understand what they are doing. My father-in-law, he's a pretty healthy guy. He walked into the hospital, demanded a dialysis because he know his body have somewhat malfunction and retain water, so he just needed to help filter his blood. They refuse to do it. They say, well, you need to have tests ran. So they run, I guess, a series of tests, free money for the hospital, you know. They determined that he have tuberculosis. And it's a wrong diagnostic, by the way. But they will adamantly say, no, they cannot be wrong. The test is positive. So therefore, he have tuberculosis. Whether he have it or not doesn't matter. What matters to the doctor is that the test result shows that he have tuberculosis. That's like a level 1 technician's mindset. But anyway, the big thing here is they caused him to die, okay? And let me explain to you the process of how they kill him and how they still get paid. And they get no consequences for their homicidal negligence. So he knew that when they take his x-ray that they're gonna come back and tell him he have tuberculosis. He's like 60, and ever since he was 25, he have dealt with doctors. And each one of the doctor who take an x-ray and look at his x-ray will tell him that he have tuberculosis because there's a gray spot in his lung. I listened to the old man, and it make absolutely logical sense. It would make sense that he knows about this situation, and that the doctor who conclude that he have tuberculosis based on his x-ray are simply stupid because they disregarded 40 years of data for one glimpse of like a shadow. It's like claiming Iraq has weapon of mass destruction because you saw some satellite image of a pile of dirt. That was what I saw when they briefed me on why Iraq have WMD. They show us a picture of a dirt pile. Here's before and here's after. See, they move dirt. This is proof that they move weapon of mass destruction. Ridiculous shit like that. So they quarantined the old man, and I was unemployed, so I stayed with him 24/7. And between the point of entering and his death was more than 3 months, and I was there most of the time, day and night. I see all of the malpractice. They have this big poster about turning the patients every 12 hours. I don't see them doing that shit, even 24 hours. So I had to ask the nurse about that. And they agreed that he should be turned, so they asked me to help turn him. And it's a difficult task for one person. But anyway, if it's a requirement, then you gotta do it. Otherwise, like, take down the poster. But they refused to give him a dialysis. Can you believe it? So they decided that they need to treat tuberculosis before the dialysis. For whatever reason, maybe the textbooks say so, maybe it's the best practice. I don't really know, but based on what I saw, it was dumb. It was stupid, and it killed a person when it didn't have to kill a person. And I saw 5 experts, okay? So this is not just like your first graduated intern or like you know how a hospital often have malpractice because you have the new doctors. Well, this is a specialist, okay? They've been around. They have their own practices outside. They work at the hospital. 5 expert, infectious disease and some other stuff. And they keep trying to treat his tuberculosis and it doesn't improve. And when I tell them that, he may not have tuberculosis, they just pretend I didn't say anything. So after 1 month of laying there, and when you lay in the hospital bed, they're actually killing you. So, it's just a side tip. Don't lay in the hospital because laying down will kill you faster than any disease. So anyway, finally, for whatever reason, they decided they have to do the dialysis because now his system is even worse than before, right? So they did the dialysis and they left the guy bleeding overnight. I was called for court. I was involved in a domestic violence cases and I had to go to the court, and for a technical reason, they keep dragging out for 6 months. So every few months, I show up to court, they cancel it, and then I come back. So I was away for the court, and they did the analysis. I came back, and he told me that he's been bleeding, and I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, he's been bleeding. I told him, oh, maybe it's just the cold. He looked at me like an idiot, like, look, I know I'm bleeding because it's dripping down my back. I'm like, okay, I'll stop lying to you. So I talked to the head nurse. I explained to her, like, look, this is not right. The guy's bleeding. You're supposed to stop the bleeding. And she agreed. So she called the doctors. And the doctor disagreed. They think everything's fine. And of course, she is one of the rare nurse, I think, because, nurses are overworked, right? So they have a lot of work. So to champion this cause is a personal conviction on her part and her courage that she knows what is correct and what is the correct thing to do. She has to call 3 fucking doctors to get them to come fix a problem they created, which is after the dialysis, they left the old man bleeding. And then I found something new too. After a month of staying there at the St. Joseph Hospital, his body was dying. When they taped things to his skin didn't recover. So when they removed the tape, the skin come off too. So he was physically dying from laying there in the hospital. So after a month and a half or 2, the St. Joseph decided that he could not be saved. Okay, this is a guy that was completely healthy, other than he needed help filtering water out of his blood. He knows it. The previous doctor know it, but coming to the hospital, they cannot know it even after we inform them because they ignore the patient. Okay, so they mark him for death and they send him to hospice. And the same shit happened. They use him as kind of like a free cash cow. They test him for sugar every hour or 2 hours. Just imagine yourself being sick and people come in to poke you every hour for your blood. For what purpose? If they're gonna let him die, why are they poking him? What a nasty way to go out, right? And the old man is a very tough cookie, okay? And even in his last moment, his mind was completely clear. He looked at me for help because he's tied down to the bed. He cannot do shit. No one listened to him. He doesn't speak English either. And I saw the pain in his eye, the helplessness of a child being tortured. I'm like, holy fuck. It's really a horrible feeling when you're feeling helpless as a victim. He asked me to make it stop. So I asked about the purpose of the blood test. They just monitor his sugar level. And it's like $100 each time they poke him, so they gotta poke him as much as possible. And it was really painful for the guy, not because the poke is painful. The emotional aspect of being poked and prodded and getting your blood is painful, and the feeling of helplessness. So after the 2 months or the 3 months mark, he have always been under blanket, so I neglect to kind of check. But one time we took out the blanket because he was complaining he's hot and cold, and I put my hand in to feel it, and basically I I I I inspected the whole thing to see if he was adequately warm. I found out that he was just skeleton and skin because he's under malnourished. He wasn't getting food, and we found out that they put so much medicine in him that it's leading his liver was bleeding out and causing even more pain to the surrounding area. And it takes the damn doctor 3 months to figure out that he's bleeding every time he eats. He's bleeding this toxin out and causing him more pain. So the guy endured 3 months of torture by the medical practice. And on the last one, what they did was they did intubation, where they put the tube down his throat to get food into his stomach. And they basically tore him up and blood everywhere, and he died from the process. And what happened is I'm not completely angry at the guy, but it's just really sad because of the whole thing. It should not be that way. So the guy was a nurse who had been out of practice. So maybe he got disbarred, he lost his license, maybe shit like that happened. But anyway, he haven't done this thing for like 10 years. And now he's coming back to do something that he's not proficient at, and causes damage instead of healing. And they're not healing the guy anyway. They're just waiting for him to die and milking his dying body for everything he's worth. And this is the upsetting part, right? After you understand what they are doing. But the biggest problem, the underlying structural problem, is the doctor don't really understand their job. That's not really true. They follow instruction, right? Like the Payless Shoes guy. He understands his job really well, but nothing beyond like the basic level. If X happened, I do Y. If I do Y and nothing happened, there's nothing else I can do. They can't really figure out how the human body, human system work, and how to manipulate the system so that it works better. And now you have more and more of them. So there's a saying, the blind leading the blind. Well, every generation of doctors that come out now, you should assume that it get worse and worse, because the previous generation wasn't that smart, didn't understand that much. They create the next generations. And then every generation, their primary directive is to obey, okay? The doctors are fearful of losing the ability to make money. Without the current system, the original doctors, their fear was losing a patient or not understanding something or missing something. They would try a lot. But today, trying a lot would mean malpractice lawsuit. So they actually don't want to try a lot. They want to try a lot less. They want to stay within the approved written procedure. And then if something happens, they say, I did what I was told. I did this by the book. I did this by the procedures. Procedure written by MBA for hospital. So they kill a man because of ignorant, homicidal negligence, and refusal to listen to the people who know more than them, because they're doctors. Like I, the patient, wouldn't know shit about my body, right? I only been with it for 40 years. Why would I know anything about it? But the doctor who look at an x-ray with no context would claim that they know what they're doing. Like a piece of X-ray have like the image like spelled out tuberculosis for them. I know it doesn't spell tuberculosis. It's just their diagnostic parameter. If they see like an X mark, they're gonna assume it's X, Y, and Z, but they actually don't know what it is. They see a mark. That's all they see. That's all they know. But the rest are assumptions. But they think their assumptions are facts, and that I and the patient's facts are stupid opinions. So therefore, they don't really understand shit. Because in a lot of difficult situations, opinions are actually the best thing you could go with, especially opinions that have been tested for 40 plus years.